Meeting back to order. And Mr. Harvey, let's see, we're on 2013, number 33, City of Lumpkin, Stewart County.
All right, this case involved the municipal election in the City of Lumpkin. There were a long list of about 13 different complaints regarding election, application of election laws, and everything from absentee ballots being secured to notices being posted to having certified elections personnel. And one second. So multiple allegations: insufficient poll workers during early voting, absentee ballots not secured, oaths not being completed, no privacy for voters, poll workers not wearing name tags, proper results not kept, etc. The city conducted its own election, and when we looked at the overall election, we found about 10 different violations. First, starting with the election superintendent was not certified to run the election. Oaths were not completed signed by poll workers. Training wasn't offered and completed by poll workers. ID badges weren't worn by poll workers. They didn't have the sufficient number of poll workers in attendance while voting was taking place. There was no provisional ballot preparation area set up. There was no secure ballot box in public view. There was no absentee ballot log maintained. Notices about advanced voting were not posted, and the required signage and posted in the polling place was not posted. So they kind of failed across the board in terms of preparation and documentation and verification of the election, and recommend that it be bound over on the listed violations.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Hearing none, anyone here wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Ann Williams, address 2334 Broad Street, Lumpkin, 31815. And I am guilty of not preparing. I guess I could say my son did not give me a grandchild until I was 61 years old, and it was her first birthday, and I was going down there to see her, and I just let things slide. When I got back, I got everything. I got my notices up and everything going right. As far as the certification, I thought I was. I had been up here with the Kennesaw and taken the class. I had taken online classes in the year before that. So I didn't realize I was not certified. I am in the process now of holding a special election And every I is dotted, every T is crossed, I can assure you. I have my 3 workers, and they're there. The correct number of hours, everything is being done in order. I apologize for it, I throw myself on y'all's mercy and ask for forgiveness.
Okay. Any questions to Ms. Williams? All right, thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak on this matter? Do we have a motion? I would move that we bind the case over to the Attorney General's office per the report, the violations, and Mr. Willard's walking back in, and we'll let him know that, that Ms. Williams was here today, owning up to the violations. And I think Mr. Willard can work with you to make sure that we get a consent order that lets us know, lets the board know that you have things in order now. And
Well, I've been working with Aaron at the Secretary of State's office, and I've got everything.
okay, all right, but I would move that we bind it over in that regard. You got a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same motion, same sign, and that motion carries. Thank you very much, and congratulations. 2013, number 35, the Sumter County.
Yes, sir. This involves, let's see, the issue of illegal assistance, and some of the same issues that we dealt with earlier today. In the last hour or so, I've asked the investigator to go through the report and try to come back with a report that's consistent with what we did in Telfair County, so that we can clarify a little bit what we mean regarding the assistance and what with ballot versus envelope. So I'll do my best to convey that to the board. The allegation, was that people were, a sister-in-law of a candidate was illegally assisting voters with absentee ballots. That was the nature of the complaint. So following up on our investigation, we determined that there had been some illegal assistance, and there had been some assistance that now appears, at the time, we thought was illegal, but based on current application, the board is reconsidering. So if you go to the potential violations page, where it starts with Edith Green, the elector, what we determined is that on the first charge, filling out the voter registration application, we request that be dismissed. We don't find a violation there. She did assist the voter, but the voter signed it themselves, and so we don't find a violation there. Likewise, with the second violation under Edith Ann Green, we recommend that being dismissed on the application. Again, she did help the voter. The voter was not disabled, and the voter did sign.
Mr. Harvey, the first person you recommended dismissal for, who was that?
Well, I'm just on some specific charges. I'm on Edith Ann Green, which should be...
Okay, I got you.
All right, so the first 2 violations listed under her, I'm recommending be dismissed.
Okay.
Now, the third one is a valid violation in that she did actually mark their ballots for them. They said that she helped bubble them in, and she failed to sign the oath as assisting.
Okay.
So I think that's a valid charge, and would recommend that go over. Now, on LaShonda Williams, on the first violation we've got listed, unlawful possession. Again, this is as the board has ruled, sort of a strict liability. She did take possession of 2 votes and 2 ballots and mailed them. So we've got 2 counts of illegal possession of absentee ballots. The second violation under LaShonda Williams, I believe, should be dismissed, in that she was just assisting filling out the envelope. The third violation regarding Ms. Ms. Williams assisted a voter while her aunt was a candidate on the ballot, which I believe is a violation of 212409B. So she assisted a voter while her aunt was a candidate on the ballot. And lastly, on Betty Prince assisted her husband. Her husband made his mark, and his wife wrote his signature on that space, again, essentially trying to help him. And I recommend that she be issued a letter of instruction just informing her that she can't complete her husband's name on the ballot, especially after he's made his mark. So we've got the third violation under Green, recommend binding over, the third violation under Williams, and the first violation under Williams bound over, and then a letter of instruction to Betty Prince.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? All right. Do we have a motion?
I move that the allegations related to OCGA 21-220 and 21-2-381 against Ms. Green be dismissed, and the allegations regarding 21-2-385 be bound over to the law department. Want to take that one first?
Yes. Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries, and we have dealt with Edith Ann Green.
With regard to Ms. Williams, I would move that we dismiss the allegations against her relating to 21-2-385B and bind over the other two allegations against her to the Attorney General's office.
Well, we've got a motion by Ms. Sullivan, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Worley, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And I will make a third motion that
Did y'all vote?
I'm sorry.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
It's the longest motion ever. Part three. Part three, I move that a letter of instruction be issued to Ms. Prince.
Got a motion and a second for a letter of instruction for Ms. Prince. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, Mr. Harvey, the City of Woodland, somebody here for that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened in the last case. 2013, number 37, City of Woodland.
This case is very similar to the case we just had in the city of Lumpkin. It's a municipal election that was pretty much inadequately conducted. There were lots of violations, again, a lot of them procedural. The allegations were initially that the ballot box was insecure, there was improper signage, and that people were not being allowed assistance in voting. We did an investigation and found that the election superintendent appeared to be unprepared to run the election and failed to follow most of the procedures and requirements, including not being certified to conduct the election, not using voter certificates, failing to print and document ballots, failure to prepare privacy in the polling place, failure to certify absentee ballots, failure to have enough poll workers while voting was taking place, failure to post necessary signage and notices in the polling place. And I recommend that the city and the city clerk, the election superintendent, be bound over to the AG's office on all these listed violations.
Any questions for Mr. Hart? Anyone else wishing to speak?
Yes. Good afternoon, my name is Gary Bird, I'm the city attorney for the city of Woodland. My address is 142 Village Court, Hamilton, Georgia, 31811. The background for the city of Woodland is that the city has been in a very poor financial state for a long period of time. However, there was trained city clerk for 20 years that ran the elections in the city of Woodland, and she retired. When 2013 came around and we knew we would have an election in November, in the spring of that year, I actually went out to associate towns because I knew we had nobody certified to run the election. Went out to associate towns nearby and said, is anybody here interested in helping us run this election? We couldn't find any other person in the area within driving distance that wanted to help us hold the election. So the next step was to contact the Talbot County election board. Woodland is in the city, is in Talbot County, and we have a new election board that's been on board there for several years. They quoted a fee of $12,000 to help us run the election, and Woodland counts its pennies and dimes. I mean, they couldn't afford $1,000 to run an election, much less $12,000 to run an election. So at that point, at the next council meeting, the council said to the new city clerk, would you be interested in trying to get trained to run the election? And she said yes, she would volunteer and she would do that. So over the course of the rest of the spring, the summer, and the fall, I was in contact with her at least monthly. How's everything going? Are you getting your certifications? Do you understand what you need to do? And she said yes, that she wanted to do all those things, and yes, she was doing all those things. And at one point, she reported to me that she was certified to run the election, and that she was ready to, she thought she knew what she needed to do, and she was ready to run the election. And just as a postscript to all of that, 4 months after the election, she decided to resign, and she no longer works for the city. And I have not talked to her in a year, but she came today. She made the effort to come, and she is here today. And she wants to address all of those concerns regarding the various violations. I had lunch with her, I hadn't talked to her in a year, had lunch with her today during the lunch break, and she was very, telling me how she thought she had done all these things that are being alleged that she didn't do. So I would like to turn the microphone over to her for just a minute, let her talk to you about those things, and then come back with some other comments if I could.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burke.
My name is Charlie Ellis. My address is 321 Jackson Avenue, Tarleton, Georgia, 31827. Miss
Talbotton. It's Talbotton, yeah, Talbotton.
Miss Jones, the investigator for the board, she came to my office prior to, it was after the qualifying, before the actual election. And she said she had had a complaint that someone was concerned that the election was not going to be run properly, and she asked to see all my forms and everything, and she did at that time find several things missing. She gave me a list of things that needed to be corrected. I corrected all of those things. She came back again prior to the November 5th election. She looked over all of my signage. She saw where our booths were set up. We had an office with a door that was available. All of our booths had screens on them, had the paper screens around them, and they were in corners so that no one could walk behind. We had the signage up, we had the sample ballot up, we had voter certificates. She gave me a person to contact at the Secretary of State that was actually answering their phone, because the liaison information that I was given, nobody was returning phone calls or answering the phone. So I wasn't able to contact anybody at the Secretary of State to get any help or anything about what I was supposed to do. I went through the eLearn certificate and took all of the assessments, came up here to this actual room actually, and took the Kennesaw class, passed the test, sent in my scores to them, and as far as I knew, I had done everything that I needed to be certified, and I was waiting on them to send me a certificate that said on the thing that there was a certificate that would arrive for once you finished and sent all your information in. The ballots, it says here that the ballots were not pre-printed. They were printed and kept in a binder and in a locked office. And they were under my supervision the entire day of the election. And all about, there was a running tally of the ballot number that was used, and the ones that weren't used, that was kept. There was a log of that was kept. It says the stubs were not kept separate, but we had a ballot box for stubs that was locked, kept in public view, and a box for the ballots that was also locked and kept in the public view. So I'm not exactly sure why it says that the ballots and the stubs were not kept apart. I do know that I left prior to Ms. Jones returning to verify that all of the stubs and stuff were kept in the proper place. I left, I had quit already, and so I was not in contact or in control of any of those materials after that, after I left, before she completed her investigation. It said that the absentee ballots were not labeled as absentee ballots, but it was printed right in the top, right on the top of the ballots, because I printed all of the ballots, and the absentee ballots had it printed across the top, official absentee ballot. I followed the guidelines that were there in the election code according to LexisNexis. I did not have an election book. They said that they didn't have any printed copies of those. So I used what was on the LexisNexis. It says that the voter certificates and voting rights posters and notice of penalties were not, I didn't get those things. Like I said before, I could not get in touch with anybody from the Secretary of State. When I called our liaison, no one ever returned my phone call. When Ms. Jones came, she gave me a number of someone who should be able to help me. And he did send a box of all the voter certificates and forms that I needed to fill out, the proper forms that I needed to have filled out. He sent that prior to the election, weeks before the election, and I got all that stuff and began using it immediately. So that was rectified as soon as I had a contact that would actually return the phone calls. It says here that failed to print and display a sample ballot. I did that. It was printed smaller because our ballot was already legal size and our printer wouldn't print anything bigger than legal size. So we printed it 25% smaller and colored it sample. And when I talked to Ms. Jones on the phone, she said that that would satisfy the requirement. So that was posted, and we had the newspaper guy came by and wanted a copy of the ballot, so I gave him a copy of that sample ballot. I think he actually read it in the paper as well, so it was available. It was there and available prior to the election. I think that was all that was against me. It said to ensure that there was a manager and 2 assistants. I was there on the election day as well as 2 assistants. There was no one else available. We put out an ad in the paper calling for volunteers. We put out the word throughout the town, at the post office, at the library in Talbotton, which is not even City of Woodland. We put it on the City Hall there in Woodland, notice requesting anybody who was willing to work on election day. No one responded. It was myself, the assistant clerk who already worked there, and her daughter were the only people we could get to come in and work, because there was no allocation, no budget made for hiring somebody to come in and work, and so it had to be a volunteer, and nobody was willing to volunteer. So in that situation, I didn't know what else to do other than work myself and all 3 of us be there all the time. We packed a lunch and we ate right there on the premises so that there was always 3 people there. I don't see any other complaints, any other charges that were listed here for me.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Ms. Ellis. Let's see, Mr. Byrd, do you want to finish up, or do you want us to ask Ms. Ellis questions now?
Just ask questions.
Okay. Does anyone have a question for Ms. Ellis? Ms. Ellis, I had just a couple of things. Do you recall who your liaison was in the Secretary of State's office at the time?
I want to say her name began with a V, Vanessa or Vanetta.
Vanetta. Okay, thank you.
But I left several messages and never, ever got a return phone call from her. I went to the county, and she did give me some advice, but she made it perfectly clear that she was not responsible for training me, she was not responsible for running the election, and she was unwilling to offer any advice in case something like this happened, so she would not be involved.
Right. And then, do you remember about what time it was that you resigned? from your-
It was March 20, the year after the election, last year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I was just going to say for the record that the report indicates that Investigator Jones got her in touch with John Hallman in our office, who was able to respond and provide her with a lot of the materials that she did not have initially during the early voting.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Ellis? Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Byrd?
The gist of this story is that the city of Woodland was trying to conduct a fair and impartial election on a shoestring budget, and thought that certainly the current city council at that time, the mayor, thought that everything was being done the way it was supposed to be done. They're obviously laymen and don't know the election laws or rules. But again, Ms. Ellis was asked on several occasions, do you need any extra help, is anything going on? As a matter of fact, the only thing that she ever reported to me that was a problem was that when the first day that the early voting began, she did not have an electors list, which was to be provided by the county board. And she had called them prior to that, way in advance of the election, saying, I'm going to need this. And they said, we'll provide it for you. And they never did. And so for the first few days of early voting, she was actually having someone would come in to early vote, and she would call the county election board and say, is this person, an elector that can vote in this election? And then they would tell her that. So that was kind of the way this election, transpired. But there was no intent on part of the council or the mayor or anybody to do anything other than hold a fair and impartial election. I will also add a couple of closing notes. The complainants in this case were losing candidates that complained about this case, about this election. And
Do you have some names of those people, Mr. Byrd?
yeah, they actually were attached to the report I got.
Okay, I got them then.
There were two complainants, and they were both losing candidates in the election, and the election was a landslide. And it was an interesting result of the election because there are 5 city councilmen and a mayor, okay? The incumbent mayor won, the 5 incumbent council members lost. So, but it was a landslide in every election. Every election was won by like a 2/3 to 1/3 vote. So I don't think that any of these violations affected the outcome of the election, whether they were actually technical violations or not. And certainly, Charlie, like I said, I hadn't had a chance to talk to her in a year, but she very sincere to you here, telling me that she thought she was doing everything that she was supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Byrd? Thanks for your patience today. Mr. Harvey, did you have anything you wanted to add? I was just kind of curious on the timing. So, Ms. Jones went in prior, was that during early voting?
Yes, sir.
And obviously, the requirements weren't being met, is that correct?
That's correct. And she returned, and Ms. Jones, do you have any specific memory of when you went back? I think most of the violations were observed during early and advanced voting.
I'd have to look at the report, but I think the bulk of
Well,
the,
come on up here and let's get you on the record here again.
and like I said, I don't have a copy of the report. Pam Jones, 237 Coliseum Drive, Macon, Georgia, 31217. The bulk of the violations were during early voting. That's when they didn't have the 3 people present at all times. Certainly on the day of, her and her 2 workers would have sufficed. But I think the other issue was, she did have a voting area set aside, but code says it has to be an enclosed space with a curtain or a door. There were just a lot of procedural things that just weren't being done correctly. I can't give you time to think of the same looking at the report, but she was put in touch with a liaison who attempted to give her guidance. I think even Michelle spoke with her a couple of times as well. And then memory serves correctly, she failed to follow through with some things that they suggested,
That she failed to follow through.
yeah.
Just for the record, the investigator Jones went out there for the first time on October 24th, so that would have been before the election during early voting, and she does document getting Rochelle Simmons and John Hallman involved, and, I mean, that's when she observed most of the violations.
And I think there's some things as far as procedural issues afterwards that she's not necessarily responsible for. Because when I did my follow-up, that's when they had hired the new clerk, and, you know, the election documents weren't stored properly. You know, there were a lot of issues, I think.
Well, so that would have been after March.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Jones?
I had a question for Ms. Jones or Mr. Harvey, I'm not sure. How is it that she was not certified? What was it that she lacked?
In talking with Rochelle, I believe it was,
Yeah, I actually have that. She did go to the KSU classes in September, but she did not, our record shows she did not take the quizzes for the online portion until November 4th, and there was one that, there's 9 total, and she took 8 of them. There's one she was missing.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Byrd.
Just one quick note on the storage of records following the election. At the time that she resigned in March, following the election, it was a total surprise to everybody. She actually resigned at a council meeting. There was some disagreement between her and the new council. And I think it was a surprise to her as well as the council that she was going to resign. There was no intent that she was coming to that meeting that night to resign. And so the council was left without an employee. See, City of Woodland is a clerk and an assistant clerk and a fire chief and a utility worker, okay? So she and the assistant clerk resigned that night at the meeting. So actually, the City Hall had to be closed for about 10 days till we could even find someone just to come in and pay utility bills. And then following that, there was a selection process where we had notices put in the paper, and we did interviews of new candidates. The person that was hired was, I think, is very qualified, and she's going to take the courses and learn how to be a good election superintendent. But she was a banking employee, and she had no previous experience on handling voting records. So that probably is why the records may not have been stored correctly, because she had no previous experience in that. She was a banker and decided to come and be our city clerk.
Mr. Byrd, what kind of elections have y'all got coming up? Do you have any this year?
Don't have any, we actually, the council, because we have nobody to run elections, the council wanted to have a referendum election, but decided not to do it because we didn't have anybody qualified to run the elections this year, so they put all that off. There's no pending elections anytime in the near future, so, for the next 2 years, actually.
Any other questions for Mr. Byrd? All right, thank you. Ms. Ellis, did you want to add anything else? You don't have to, I just wanted to give you the opportunity if you did.
The only thing I wanted to offer is that I no longer work for the City of Woodland. I have absolutely no desire nor intention to ever attempt to run another election.
We hear that quite often.
Also, I wanted to clarify that I was unaware that there was one of the things that I didn't do when I looked the last time. You know, I was rushing to get everything done. I thought they were all done. So, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you. Thank you again for being here. Okay, anything else from you, Mr. Harvey?
No, sir.
All right. Do we have a motion? Mr. Harvey, do you remember in the past how we have dealt with election officials that are no longer with the jurisdiction and have no plans to do elections again in the future?
My memory is that in cases like this, and I'm not sure it's specific to former election officials, but we've had other very small cities that have had election problems, and I believe in the past, the board has bound the case over to the AG's office with the expectation that they provide a written remedial plan, and if that's presented and satisfactory, then that can.
Well, I'm not worried about the city of Woodland.
Okay.
I am, but not right now. But in Mrs. Ellis's circumstance,
Generally, I think the board has bound them over, even if they're no longer in the capacity now. And that's happened, I think, a couple times today even.
okay. All right, do y'all have anything?
Mr. Chairman, typically, unless there is a former official and the municipality or county have different violations, depending if they're the same violations for the time that they were in office, unless there is some animosity between the two entities, we do try to resolve it in a single consent order.
Okay. Well, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board. I certainly wouldn't have an issue doing that. I greatly appreciate Ms. Ellis showing up today and giving us her comments, and certainly Mr. Byrd. And I think if the board were to vote to bind it over, we could reach an agreement that if for some reason, I don't think this would happen, that Ms. Ellis did decide to do elections again, that she would make sure to get all of her proper certifications, and that we could work an agreement out with the city to make sure that before their next election, that they're trained and meet the requirements and ready to go, and we certainly stand ready to assist the city with that. That's my thoughts. I don't know if anybody has a motion or.
I'll leave the dividing this case over to the law department as to both respondents.
All right, we've got a motion to bind over from Ms. Sullivan. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Worley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank y'all again for being here today. All right, Mr. Harvey, I'm looking at 2014 number 3, the Toombs County qualifying.
Yes, sir. The allegation in this case is that the election officials did not publicize the qualifying for the office of solicitor. And the investigation revealed that it was in fact true. They failed to publicize the solicitor position. The explanation was that a solicitor had just been appointed, and they didn't realize that the term was coming up and they would have to have qualifying for a new position. I've got in my notes, I believe I've spoken to somebody from Toombs County, either an attorney or an election official, that they have implemented a remedial plan of reviewing every year all of their upcoming elections and qualifications that need to be done. I don't know if there was any, I can't recall if there was any court action as a result of this, but I would recommend a letter of instruction be issued to the Toombs County Elections Office.
Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Hearing none. Welcome.
Afternoon, Howard Caulfield, I'm the county attorney for Toombs County, and I've got with me Judge of the Probate Court, Larry Threffel, our Superintendent of Election, Terry Alligood, and Don Jones, the county manager. And I'll be very brief.
Can I get your last name?
Sure, it's Caulfield, Kaufold.
Very good. Thank you.
My address is P.O. Box 1840, Vidalia, Georgia 30475.
Thank you.
And what Mr. Harvey has stated is correct. I've got documentation of what happened. In fact, Mr. Threffel's son was our state court solicitor. He resigned. The governor appointed a gentleman, Justin Franklin, and what happened was the diminis that came out of the governor's office went to the probate court, and our election superintendent was not aware that the term was shorter than the full term that was going, that Mr. Threffel's son had been elected for. And so we advertised every other election, and we didn't advertise this one. I think when Ms. Carey got a hold of me, I was trying to case up in Manuel County, and we all was in a panic, and I called your office, sir, and got some information, and we made a decision to go ahead and hold an election. I've been one of the senior members of the Toombs County Bar. I kind of got the word out we've got a very small bar, and got the word out if was anybody wanted to run for the election. The way we found out about the situation was the gentleman, that's the state court solicitor, he came in to qualify. And then that's when we realized that we had a problem. I got the word out to the bar, and we did have one other person wanted to run, that we had an election, and the governor's appointee prevailed. And so, that's the circumstances of this scenario. And we immediately passed a resolution through the county commission where the probate judge who gets the diminishes from the governor's office when someone is appointed meets with our election superintendent and meets with our county manager. So we have a complete understanding of what elections are going to be taking place so that we can duly establish the fee in December of the year before the election and go forward the way we need to go forward. I understand and appreciate the position of a letter of instruction. I've got the resolutions by the commission that I could show the board if they'd like, but I would request that since we definitely have resolved the problem and it was a total misunderstanding, that the case be dismissed.
Any questions for Mr. Koppel? All right, thank you. Anybody else wishing to address us? Motions? Mr. Harvey, you have anything else you want to add as far as the remedial plan?
No, sir, as he indicated, they've established a way to prevent this from happening in the future.
Move this case be dismissed.
All right. Let's go to second as well. All right, Mr. Simpson made a motion to dismiss, and Mr. Word seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Well, I just wanted to say that the reason that I think it's appropriate to dismiss it rather than send a letter of instruction is that they have done, I think, everything that they can, and they're all here. I think everybody who's involved in that process is here today, and I appreciate everyone coming. And we've done everything we can do.
I do as well, and I agree. Any other discussion?
That's why I made it.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries, and we have dismissed the Toombs County case. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Yes. Case number 2014, number 5, is Sumter County, the
Yes, sir.
residency case.
This case involves a voter and candidate, Linda Wright, who at some point in the future was improperly placed in District 1. This is for Board of Education purposes. She had lived at her address on Pecan Road for years and had always been advised that she'd been in District 1, so she qualified as a candidate for District 1 Sumter County School Board and completed all the paperwork. Before the election, it was determined that she was actually in District 6, I believe, and was disqualified as a candidate in District 1. Robert Brady, who was not the election superintendent at the time this happened, became the election superintendent. He reported that in one system, her address was listed as 463 Pecan Road, and in another instance, it was 468 Pecan Road. It's unknown if there was a number that was transposed or fat-fingered or however it was done. So as it turns out, she ended up being in District 6. When she went to vote, she was allowed to vote a provisional ballot, but Sumter County doesn't have an explanation as to why her address was in the system incorrectly. It's been corrected since then. However, in talking with Mr. Brady last week, they still don't have a completed voter registration application that has the current address on Pecan Road for Ms. Wright. So, although nobody can say exactly how it happened, Sumter County did violate 21-226 for failure to have a voter in their proper district, and we also have Supervisor Brady. We got him cited for 21-218, and we've got that for failure to receive a change of address form when he corrected her record, and that's a kind of a difficult violation in the sense that he knew the information was right. He knew that the wrong information was in there, so he changed it. However, he doesn't have a form to go with it, and he's still in the process of trying to get a handwritten change of address form so that he has something to back up that record change.
Well, is it my understanding that Mrs. Wright hasn't filled that form out, or won't fill that form out?
That's my understanding. Mr. Brady can speak.
All right, let me ask, are there any questions for Mr. Harvey? All right, Mr. Brady, well, go ahead, sir.
My name is Robert Brady. I'm supervisor of elections for Sumter County. My address is, well, that made it worse. My address is 205 Weber Road in Americas, 31719.
Okay, you get a little glass of water. You take your time.
Here they know me now.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, never mind, we got a bar up there.
I apologize. I don't know where that came from. Now, let's try that. My name is Robert Brady. I'm the supervisor of elections of Sumter County, Georgia. I'm also the chief registrar. My address is 205 Weber Road in Americas. That's 31719. The comments I'm going to have to make about this, the first part of this, took place 2 years before I took over this position. So I can only tell you what I've been told by the existing board members, and that is that Ms. Wright was attempting to qualify in School Board District 1, and how she came to that belief is unknown, but she was told at the time she was in District 6. I can't account for why the address was different. The actual circumstances of the discovery were my poller called me on one of our special elections. They were there, and it indicated that her address was different than that of her husband's and her daughter, and that had put her in a different district. I went out to the polls and spoke to her, and she showed me her identification, and it indicated that she did in fact live at 463, not 468. So at that point, I indicated that we should cancel the ballot in the G.B.R. machine that she was going to vote in, and we gave her a provisional ballot. On the strength of seeing her ID and this provisional ballot, when I got back to the office, I went ahead and made the change in the voting records. The truth of the matter is that I did not confirm that a change of address was accepted from her at the time. I was just busy trying to get this calmed down. Since then, Ms. Wright has a very antagonistic attitude towards my office, towards me personally, towards a lot of people. Currently, her husband, is not that this is related, is in the process of suing Sumter County and my office. So she takes every opportunity to be as aggressive towards us as possible. She has not shown any inclination at all to answer requests for information. I've mailed her two change of address forms, and the word I get from her is she never received it. The second one that was mailed with a return receipt requested, and it came back unopened. So all I can say is they're either not accepting, not willing, not interested, not anything. I'm still attempting to do this. Her correct address has been put into the election net system, and I confirm it with great regularity to make sure it's all still there like it's supposed to be. This is one of those where, yes, sir, I'm at fault in that I did not get the change of address form at the time. But I was more concerned with using a very hostile situation at the time. That's the only thing I can say in my defense. But she won't run into this problem again. I also might add on another note here that Ms. Wright conveniently picks the district, or has attempted to in the past, that she wants to live in. And that's part of the reason that I tried to make it be very ironclad. We know for sure where she is now, and this won't happen again. And that has caused another set of animosities also. So, again, I guess what I'm saying is, yes, sir, I did it. I'm sorry, and if I can fix it, I will.
Well, Mr. Brady, thank you for being here today and for being so honest with us. I know you would do things differently if you had the chance to do that over again. You don't, and we recognize that, but is there anything else you could do at this point to rectify the situation without some cooperation with Mrs. Wright?
Nothing that would get me in trouble.
Okay.
The only thing that I can do is be standing.
I mean, the reason I'm asking you that is to make sure that, you know, we realize people are human, we are too, and, you know, there was a mistake made, you're trying to fix it. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that you think you could do.
I was only being partially facetious. By possibly getting in trouble, would be standing there with the form and make her fill it out for the voter's certificate. And that really is not the right thing to do. It's, I don't know what
Do you have any documentation of what you have done, or do other people will the other people in the office know of your efforts?
Would other people know that
Yeah.
that we were attempting to get this
Yeah.
information? Yes, sir.
Okay,
I
good.
have two part-timers, one who works exclusively in the morning, one exclusively in the afternoon, and they are both free. If she comes in, you'll be sure to get this form filled out.
Okay. All right, did anybody else have any questions for Mr. Brady? Okay, thank you, sir. Is anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Ms. Ford, do you have any suggestions on how we could resolve the issue with Ms. Wright?
I have two suggestions. I don't know if either one of them would work. We can look back. Robert doesn't have access to the legacy system, but we do. We can look back and maybe see who made the change of address.
Okay.
And if it was a mistake, then he can go in and just change it, you know, as he did, change it back, but with, reason of user correction. And the second thing, if there's a voter certificate that she has filled out with the correct address, you can use that as a change of address. You have
Yes,
that?
sir, I have a completed voter
Okay.
voter certificate. I should have thought of that. I'm sorry.
She's having a hard time hearing you.
I apologize. I'm just trying to keep her from howling at us.
There you go.
I do have a completed voter certificate for the election in which she was given a provisional ballot. I made the changes based on the strength of the address on the provisional ballot, but essentially it would be the same thing. So.
All right, well,
Ms. Ford is right.
you just coordinate with Ms. Ford, and we'll try to get this resolved, and if that doesn't work, we'll see how we can do something else.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yes, all right. Any other questions for Mr. Brady? No, you think you're good. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? So, Mr. Harvey, what was the recommendation here again?
I don't know that I made a recommendation, but I think a letter of instruction may be a little bit redundant, but I mean, there is this inconsistency that exists. So as a matter of closing the case in some form, I think a letter of instruction may be appropriate. I don't think anything more than that is necessary.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Ms. Sullivan moves for a letter of instruction.
Second.
Mr. Worley seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, that motion passes. Thank you all again for being here. All right, 2014, number 43.
This case is in Camden County. There was an issue in the runoff election, primary runoff in 2014. One precinct where 4 voters were originally turned away. They had voted nonpartisan in the general primary and were told that they couldn't vote in a party primary in the runoff, which is incorrect. Our office contacted their office. We actually sent, I believe we sent an investigator out to, we did send Investigator Jones out to Camden County on election day. She was out monitoring, was able to make contact with the election officials. The election folks were able to contact the 4 people who had been given the erroneous information, and they were allowed to vote, and they voted properly. So this case, had a happy ending, I suppose, once they were given the accurate information. And again, I think a letter of instruction reiterating the need to train all the poll workers on primary runoff elections would be sufficient in this case. There was just one precinct where it was a problem.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone wishing to speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Robert C. Sweat Jr., probate court judge of Camden County, also the election superintendent. Couldn't agree more. We made a mistake, and we need to get it, make sure we got it right from here on out. We tell them all the time, if you're not sure, do a provisional. Miss Wade did the next best thing. She called my office. Why Miss Fogel didn't ask me the question, I sit 30 feet away in the office next door. But Ms. Fogel's followed up. She's actually taken the KSU this year, and she's also going to do the election that. And it's just our fault. We made a mistake, and like I said, we try to do this during training, but I always look at that stuff like it comes back to me. Maybe I didn't get it across enough during that time, but I don't think we have anything else to say.
Good. All right, thanks for being here, Judge. Any questions for the judge? All right. Hearing none. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? All right, we got a recommendation of a letter of instruction. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Simpson moves for the letter. Mr. Worley seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, thank you. Safe travels. All right, Mr. Harvey.
I believe we're back to Floyd County. We're going,
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, we're going back to Floyd County, which is 2012, number 86, number 40 in our book.
and this is another case that was initially presented at the last meeting. Floyd County and Yvonne Billups had not been noticed or put on notice of the violations. This was a case where we had voters that were placed in the wrong district. I think there were 5 voters that were affected during early voting. They had a districting issue. They had to create a dual database. And I think we also bound over the poll manager in the last case for leaving a memory card in at DRE. I would recommend that Floyd County Board of Elections and Voter Registration and Yvonne Billups be bound over to the AG's office on the listed violations.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone wishing to speak? Hearing none, do we have a correct motion?
I move to bind over this case.
Mr. Worley moves to bind over. Mr. Simpson seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. So we got 2012-107, the Montgomery County case.
Yes, sir. Second to catch up. There was an allegation here that there was a candidate who was possibly manipulating or illegally handing absentee ballots. We did not find any evidence of intentional absentee ballot fraud on a large scale. However, again, as we have done before, we found several administrative problems with absentee ballots and some of the election paperwork when we started looking at it. We found that there were 9 absentee ballots that should have been rejected when they were accepted. 1 that was not properly documented as received by the election office, They didn't properly separate the provisional ballots from the regular ballots. Ballot recap forms and official statements of vote cast didn't reconcile completely. They were off by one. There were five reported spoiled ballots, but there was no documentation or evidence to go along with those. They didn't preserve any of that. 5 voters had to vote provisional ballots due to some machine errors. However, those provisional ballots were not handled as provisional ballots. And we have the issue of 3 wives assisted their husbands with their absentee ballots but did not sign as assisting. And again, I think that is going to be another case of the assisting with the envelope and not assisting with the ballot. So I think when we look at the violations, we'll want to adjust that accordingly, according to the new guidelines or understandings. So I recommend that, my recommendation is that the probate judge, election superintendent, Judge Sanders, Joe Hamilton, Bobby Carpenter, and Elizabeth Hughes be bound over to the AG's office on the citations for the absentee ballot errors. And then with Meadows, Glasper, and Brewer, originally I had them slated for recommended letters of instruction. I think based on the fact that they handled the completed with the assisting of the envelope, that Meadows, Glasper, and Brewer be dismissed.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, we have a motion. Oh, Mr. Harvey, I have one question. Do you happen to know why the 9 ballots that were accepted, why they should have been rejected?
In most cases, it's because the elector didn't put a date of birth or didn't put an address. Let's see if I can find that real quickly.
It's all right. I was just
That's the only thing I can think of why an absentee ballot wouldn't be accepted.
All right, we have a motion.
I will make a motion that is consistent with the recommendation.
All right,
Mr. Harvey.
Sullivan moves that we bind over Judge Sanders, Joe Hamilton, the registrar, and Bobby Carpenter, the chief deputy registrar, and Elizabeth Hughes, the registrar, to the AG's office and dismiss the complaint on Gail Meadows, Clara Glasper, and Faye Brewer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, Mr. Harvey, 2012-182, FedEx.
Yes, sir. This is kind of an unusual case. There is a hospital in, I believe, Muskogee County, the West Central Georgia Regional Hospital, was attempting to help voters vote absentee ballots, and the staff collected the absentee ballots for these 7 voters. 2 of the ballots didn't have the proper outer envelope. They put them all in one FedEx envelope, and they FedExed it to the Secretary of State's office the day before the election. They were delivered to my office, actually, I think the evening of the election. And of course, were not able to be counted because they weren't received by the county election offices. In addition, the facility retained copies of the voter registration. They also helped these folks register to vote, and they retained copies of their voter registration applications without a signed waiver allowing them to do so. And I recommend that the respondents be bound over to the AG's office on the violations.
Anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Hearing none, any questions for Mr. Harvey? We have a motion.
Move that we bind over the respondents in this case to the Attorney General.
We've got a motion by Mr. Worley and a second by Mr. Simpson to bind over. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I was just alert the board, these appear to be state employees.
I was wondering about that.
We may need to have discussions with your staff about how these cases are handled. I'm not certain that our office will be able to handle it.
Yeah, I asked Mr. Harvey about that.
Are you volunteering, Ms. Sullivan?
By acclamation. Yeah, I think you're all right. Okay, case number 2013, number 6, the Long County absentee ballot case.
This case is relatively simple. There was when Long County sent out absentee ballots to voters for the local special election, they failed to print or stamp return addresses for the Long County Election Office on the return envelopes that they sent. And we got the complaint, and apparently it was just a 1 or 2 off error because they apparently hand stamped them every time they went out, and a couple just slipped through the cracks. We also had 2 cases where voters were placed in their incorrect districts in Long County. Given everything else that Long County is dealing with today, I would recommend this being bound over to the AG's office as well.
Anyone, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Hearing none, do we have a motion? Mr. Simpson moves that we bind over. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Worley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. All right, next is 2013, number 25, it's a Chris County felons case.
This case was reported by Chris County. They received voter registrations from 13 people, and on conducting their examination, they found that all 13 appeared to be serving felony sentences at the time they registered to vote. When we did our investigation, we found that 12 of the 13 were in fact serving felony sentences. One of the 13, however, was not. They were serving a first offender status and were eligible to register to vote. That person is Courtney Javon Coley. And so I recommend the case against Courtney Javon Coley be dismissed, and that the remaining 12 respondents be bound over for the violation of registering to vote while serving a felony sentence.
Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone wishing to speak on this case? Hearing none, I'm ready for a motion. I would move that we bind over the 12 respondents to the Attorney General's office.
I would second that.
All right, we've got a motion by the chair and a second by Mr. Worley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries, and we have bound the 12 respondents over. All right, case number 2013, number 32, City of Osceola.
The allegation here is that a candidate on the ballot, Reginald Miller, entered a polling place while his name was on the ballot and stayed there. Also that he parked his vehicle with campaign materials within 150 feet of the polling place. The investigation revealed that he did go into the polling place he said he wanted to check on a list of electors. He sat in the polling place in the voting area for a while until it was brought to the attention of the election officials, who moved him to another part of the office to do the paperwork, review the paperwork he was reviewing. In addition, we found that the election staff didn't have 3 people working at all times, and that the poll workers did not all complete oaths, and were not all sufficiently trained. And so, we've got Mr. Miller cited for entering a polling place while he's a candidate, and we've got the city and the election superintendent and Martha Sawyer cited for failing to complete oaths and failing to complete proper training.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Hearing none, anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I can, feel free to throw something at me, but I just had a couple of quick questions. Mr. Harvey.
absolutely.
Did your investigation determine whether or not Mr. Miller had already cast his vote when he was in the polling precinct?
I don't know if we determined that. I don't see that in the report.
Was it his polling precinct that he was at? Or was it a polling precinct that he was eligible to vote in?
It was.
Right. What was he, it's my understanding from what you were saying that he may have been transacting business
But he was,
with the Board of registrars?
no, he was reviewing voter lists, I think, with at the table where people checked in to vote. I think he was, what he was doing would not be considered conducting business with the Board of Registrars.
It may be that he was entitled to be there, Mr. Chairman, if he had not cast his vote. The prohibition is a candidate cannot return once he has cast his vote, but I'm happy if we send it over here. I may have Mr. Harvey do some additional investigation on it in terms of Mr. Miller, but it's possible that a 414 violation will not be upheld, depending on what additional information comes out.
So as long as he wasn't campaigning,
Well,
Well,
my
that-
understanding is the campaigning, and that's another issue.
so,
He apparently had a sticker on his door, and without more, like, it's a flashing neon sign or something, we've had this discussion. To me, that's akin to a bumper sticker, and as I've said, that's not campaigning.
well, the only thing, the reason I'm asking it, it kind of concerns me a little bit. If we're taking that position, a statewide candidate like myself, if I hadn't voted legally, I could go in every early voting precinct. Well, I guess I couldn't. I wouldn't be
You could
able-
go
I could do
wherever
them all
you
of them, I
can.
guess, in Clark County. Okay. No. If anybody doesn't want to appear before y'all, it's me. Okay, anything else, Mr. Woodard?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I move that we bind all these respondents over to the law department.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Let me just make sure there was no one else that wished to speak or ask questions. I'm making sure I asked that. All right, we got a motion and a second to bind over and let Mr. Willard figure all that out. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. All right, we're on to, right here, 2013 number 47, Tiff Colquitt, City of Macon. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, give 1 second to catch up. I do have a communication from the attorney for the city of Omega, as he pronounced it, regarding this case that I would present to the board if the board would accept it.
We got a motion to accept,
So moved.
and I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and we have accepted the document.
In this case, it's a simple case. The city self-reported that they allowed a voter who lived in the county but not in the city to vote in a city election. They knew the person, and they knew the person had an Omega address, and they came in and they allowed them to vote before they looked them up on the system, and the person cast a vote. They reported it to our office immediately and directly, and I recommend that a letter of instruction be issued to them reiterating that they shouldn't do that.
Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Hearing none, ready for a motion? questions, discussion? Chair would move for a letter of instruction. We have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 2013, number 61, the City of Brunswick.
So this is, back to the issue of absentee ballots. The city realized when they sent out some absentee ballots that they may have sent some that didn't have a return address stamped on. So they called the people who had requested absentee ballots to make sure that they knew to make sure there was a proper address. And they called our respondent, Eunice Wilcox, who said, well, I don't have my ballot anymore because I gave it to my friend to deliver for me. So that friend is Eunice Wilcox, who received the absentee ballot from Ms. Johnson. So we've got her cited for illegal possession of an absentee ballot.
Any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone else wishing to speak? I assume Ms. Wilcox was noticed.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion?
Move this case over.
Mr. Simpson moves to bind over. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Worley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Let's see.
We're down to Long County.
Yes, 2014, number 6, Long County.
The allegations were that not all the qualifying information was posted in the legal organ. LNA testing was not completed properly and securely. The Board of Elections wasn't properly sworn in. The polls opened late during early voting. We did our investigation and we came to the conclusion that the qualifying for the solicitor's office was not in fact posted in the legal organ as required. Prior to LNA testing, the DRE units were unlocked and unsecured outside the courtroom. The door to the GEM servers left open and unmonitored during LNA testing, and the polls opened 2 hours late on May 20th. So I recommend that the respondents be bound over on the allegations as cited in the report.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Anyone? Yes, sir, Mr. Ward.
What's going on in Long County?
Long County.
I don't think I've ever had a board meeting where we had so many cases from a single jurisdiction.
My understanding, a lot of it had to do with, they have some kind of a divided board. There's a lot of animosity there, which is not unique to them, certainly. I think Ms. Cunningham, who's the former director, was sort of a lightning rod, and I think people were constantly making complaints. This complaint was actually made by a board member who is trying to, has a little bit of, you know how we have some counties that have watchdogs that report every single thing that happens. I think that's the attitude that has been in Long County, is to say, okay, we're just going to smother you with complaints and allegations on every single thing you do wrong until you straighten up. So we've had that in Hancock, and we've had that in some other places as well. So I think they've kind of got the bug.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And thank you for listening to me. My name is Patricia Johnson. My address is 29 Eula Drive, Little Georgia. I am the person that made the complaint. I first wish to say that Ms. Vanessa Cunningham was the person that was in charge whenever I became a member of the board. One of the first things that she taught me, and really I felt it was an insult, but now I really appreciate it, was to take the code book and learn it like I do my Bible. I have a doctorate degree in Christian education, and believe me, I have found it very, very necessary. On the complaints that I have made, I feel that they were valid, and you did accept some of those. Whenever our election supervisor was interviewed for the job, I was one of the persons that interviewed her. She understood what her job description was and her title. She was also told by me if she needed any help to let me know, and if I didn't know the answer, I would certainly try to help her find that answer. As far as animosity is concerned, right now, in a watchdog, we as Long County citizens want our legislators and those people that are in office to be transparent. And we're not really getting that. And it has come from several complaints. Some people will ask us questions and we will refer those on. Again, we went without the county commissioners released Ms. Mildred Hopkins, and we were without a third board member, which we're required to have at least 3 for more than 6 months. And after addressing them on numerous occasions, then 2 people were, in my opinion, hand-selected and put on the board. These people failed to, one of them failed to come to any meetings or any trainings because they have businesses, and I understand that. But when there's a job to be done, we have to put that aside and do our job. The 2 ladies that are in question still have not had the opportunity, even though 2 classes have been held. But the LA training, the Gym 101 and 102 training, they still have not had the opportunity to go do that because, again, they have businesses to run. Now, again, whenever I brought to my supervisor's attention that on number 2 and number 7, those were not accepted or by the board. When I brought to her attention that she is not the election supervisor and she should not have sworn in the 2 board members, Ms. Woods and Ms. Smith, she said, well, I was told that I could do so. And I asked her, where did she get that information from? And she wouldn't indulge that information to me. I then went over to the probate court and I went to the county commissioners and asked if they would look into that. That was in December. Nothing was done. So 5 months later, I filed a complaint. I think that gave them ample time to make any changes if they wanted to make the changes. And they did not go and sign the re-sworn in until the 20th of May. So they had from December until the 20th of May to go, and which was after I filed this report, that they were sworn in properly, so that there was a violation, and I have documentation for that. So again, I just feel like I'm doing my job, and I want to do what is right by all of the citizens of Long County without any threats or intimidation.
Well, thank you, Ms. Johnson, for being here, being so patient today. Does anybody have a question for Ms. Johnson? Okay, thank you. Mr. Harvey, on the paperwork she had for the other potential violation, did we rule that out? Or?
I think the fact that her allegation is that the board wasn't sworn in properly, I don't think it's something that the state election board.
Not our
And her other issue was that some of the board members had not been attending meetings and training, and again, that's sort of the internal workings of the board that I don't believe the state election board has any jurisdiction over.
Ms. Johnson, I would also just tell you, if you ever feel like you're being intimidated or treated improperly, you let Mr. Harvey know.
Thank you, sir, for your support.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none, do we have, Mr. Harvey, what was the, well, let me ask you this, Ms. Ford, is Ms. Hamilton, has she been coming to the training here?
She has certified. She has gotten certified, and I believe she's gonna come to one of the trainings in April.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, anybody else have anything else? We have a motion.
Move to bind over this complaint to the attorney general.
All right, Mr. Worley moves, we bind over, Ms. Sullivan seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and that motion is carried. All right, Mr. Harvey, believe that's got everything
Yes, sir. I
on
believe so.
your agenda. All right, we'll move, I don't think we need a break. Hopefully we can wrap up here rather quickly. We'll move on to the Attorney General reports. As y'all know, we've been doing these the same way. If nobody wants to pull one of these out, we've been voting to accept the consent orders in block. Is anybody here in the audience that would like to remove one of these cases to discuss?
I'd like to discuss one.
All right, anyone on the board? Ms. Sullivan?
Judge.
Oh, you're good, okay.
Case number 66, I'm just wondering how we would have,
And understand this, so my tabs, I've got the original before they got pulled. Which case is this?
Let's do this. We're gonna pull off, the 2011-123, is that it? Early Kemp?
no, Pauling
Paul,
101.
all right. All right, we'll pull that out, 101 Paulding County, 2000.
Yes,
Is that the only one? Yeah.
yes.
All right, Mr. Worley?
I'd like to pull out, the Gwinnett County case, 2012-164.
All right,
Only because I'm going to accuse myself on that case.
all right. Yeah, that's very appropriate. Anybody else want to pull one off and discuss? Okay, hearing none, I will accept a motion to accept the consent orders for case number 2010-18, case number 2011-123, case number 2010, number 18, case number 2012-139.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Simpson moves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Worley seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries, and we have accepted those consent orders. Now, we'll go in order here. 2012, well, actually, let's go to 2011-101, the Paulding County case. Mr. Willard, or Ms. Sullivan, I don't know, do
I have
you want to?
another question regarding that.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is how we ended up having referred this to the law department, this person's probation ended 2 years before they left.
It's my understanding when our attorney who I assigned this case to contacted probation that he was granted an early discharge. So his probation had terminated prior to the time that he registered.
So our investigation just not, there was a mistake at some point in
And
the investigation.
it would not have been, it would have appeared when they got a copy of the sentence, that his sentence would have extended beyond the time that he actually served, but when we actually contacted probation, they showed that his probation had terminated.
All right, any other questions on that case? Do we have a motion to accept, or,
So moved.
got a motion to accept the consent order, case number 2011-101,
The final order.
final order by Ms. Sullivan, and a second by Mr. Worley. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. And then 2012-164, Mr. Worley?
Well, I'm just, need to recuse from.
All right, let the record show that Mr. Worley has recused himself on the discussion and the vote on 2012 number 164, the Gwinnett County case. Do we have any other questions, or do we have a motion, or do we want Mr. Willard to refresh us?
I'll move forward. Is that all right?
Second.
All right, Ms. Sullivan moves that we accept, and Mr. Simpson seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. I believe that that is all of our work today on the agenda. Let the record show that Mr. Worthy is now back with us as a voting member. And if nobody has anything else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I have a question.
All right.
Is there anything that we need to discuss with our executive session?
Good question. Mr. Willard?
I do not have anything, Mr. Chairman, unless you have.
Mr. Chairman, do you have anything you think we need to talk about?
No, sir, unless you guys want to give an update on the Fulton County. Fulton County stuff.
to hear it.
All right,
If it's not,
we can move to go into executive session real quick. Get a quick update, certainly appropriate.
well, I make
This is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. We've seen in newspapers and television and on radio everybody talking about Remembering Bloody Sunday in Selma. Bring range of views, emotions to bridge. Yes, across America we hear about what happened at Edmund Pettus Bridge. Newspaper after newspaper highlights the President of the United States coming to this historic location. This flashed around the world. Even in LaGrange Daily News, we read about the Edmund Pettus Bridge and what happened there. People from around the world came to witness Bloody Sunday. But the strange thing about all of this is that this happened many decades ago. But what about the Quitman 10+2? 12 outstanding citizens that were also dealing with voting rights. The state of Georgia brought these outstanding citizens up on alleged voter fraud. After 4 years, all charges was dropped. Lula Smart had 2 trials. The first one mistrial, second mistrial, the third trial, all charges was dropped. Many federal violations the state of Georgia accused them of. Yet where was these people during that historic suffering from 12 outstanding black African-American citizens, 11 women and 1 male? Where were these people? Did they come to Brooks County? Did the SCLC, the NAACP, and others travel and support them financially in their quest for justice by supporting attorney Shaveen King and others in that case? Yes, we had better wake up. And the people that traveled to the Edmund Pettus Bridge to be in the newspapers and on the front page, pages of history. It is easy, real easy, to journey to southern states to show what happened yesterday. But how many people are willing to come to the state of Georgia and support the newly elected black mayors in the state of Georgia that are being stripped from their powers, removed from office by Superior Court judges, taken into the courtrooms for nothing after being elected by a majority vote? Some of them have been given various criminal trespasses. Some of them, brothers and sisters, have been arrested and taken to jail and found guilty by Southern judges. And yet the newspapers in the local, state, and national level all ignore. These mayors that are suffering without help from Georgia government officials, even GMA, let me repeat, GMA, the ones who are supposed to train elected officials in the state of Georgia, will not stand with the mayor in Meigs, Georgia, Linda Harris, who's been arrested twice, given criminal trespass warnings. Both our brothers are arrested and taken to jail, given criminal trespass warnings, and banned from city council meeting where their sister is the mayor. Yet, nobody or a few people will come to their aid, but yet we'll travel to Selma about what happened yesterday. These mayors are not following the history of those of yesterday. They are the history makers. Where is MSNBC? Al Sharpton, 60 Minutes, 48 Hours, Datelines. When it come down to the new Selma of Gordon, Georgia, and Marianne Whipple-Lue, who they are trying to drive out of office, all you have to do is Google Meigs Mayor Linda Harris, or Gordon Mayor Marianne Whipple-Lue, or let's take it a step further, Lumpkin, Georgia, where Charles Gibson, very young man from the black experience, was called a nigger by a sitting councilwoman, a white female, Debbie Stone, in Lumpkin, Georgia. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and other top civil rights leaders, they have been informed through videos, and if they don't know about it, they should. The Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, we want to thank him for all the service that he's done over the years. But what if these people that found it necessary to travel to Selma and to show so much love and respect and honor for those of a bygone era, but these freedom fighters of this dispensation, newly elected black mayors in the state of Georgia, continue to suffer without any large outcry? CNN, ABC, CBS, collectively nobody will report. Nobody will sit these mayors down. Nobody will reach from the national level to look at the new Selma in the state of Georgia that is circumventing the power of the black vote. Do you not know that the Quitman 10+2 was found not guilty? All charges were dropped against them. And yet there was a court case that lasted 19 days in the Brooks County Courthouse. Let me repeat, 19 days in the Brooks County Courthouse. There was no ABC. There was no CBS. There was no Valdosta Daily Times. There was no Quitman Free Press to tell the story. No newspaper. It was as if though a tree fell in the forest, and then they tell us that the forest does not exist when we had 12 outstanding citizens to be charged by the state of Georgia for alleged voter fraud. All because, many of us believe, all because for the first time in Brooks County history, blacks became the majority on the Brooks County Board, School Board of Education. The first time. And some did not like that, and they sought out to circumvent the voting process. And then, during the last election, these two black members of the school board was defeated in an election that, in my opinion, needs to be redone. It needs to be redone because the G.B.R, the Secretary of State, and law enforcement, former school attorney, postal clerk John Boone, and others, including Glenn Archie of the Secretary of State's office. There's a great possibility that they made statements that was untrue under oath, and all this can be obtained by getting a copy of the transcript. We walked the street with Representative Tyrone Brooks, the late Senator Robert Brown, late Senator Robert Brown, Senator David Lucas out of Macon. And so we're going to continue to talk about how we make mockery of our civil rights organizations, or they make mockery of themselves, by not supporting and standing up and walking around the new problems in our community. Why just focus on Selma of yesterday, but you can't focus on the Selma of this dispensation and what is going on? In my most humble opinion, I want to commend the people that travel to Selma. But at the same time, I wonder how many hypocrites was in and among the crowd. How many hypocrites were in and among the crowd of the trip to Selma? For if you go to Selma and support the workers and freedom fighters of yesterday, but would not stand with the Quitman 10+2, would not stand with the newly elected black mayors that are being run out of office, like such as in Warrenton with George Ivey, or with Mayor Chris Wright in Dawson, Georgia, that was shot six times and left in his yard. And yet our civil rights organization, the NAACP, SCLC, and others, gave no long outcry about what these people are going through. And let me repeat again, 19 days, and not a single newspaper reported the beef of what took place in the case of Miss Lula Smart, brought up on 15 to 20 or 30 or 40 charges. Many of them was felonies by the state of Georgia. We later found out that the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, the governor of the state of Georgia, Georgia Attorney General Sam Olens, the Department of Justice under Eric Holder, few seem interested in acquiring justice on behalf of the voters in Brooks County. Now, why would I make such a statement? It is because it has been documented for all the world to see. I'm talking about the civil rights leaders across this nation, put together and sent letters and videos to Eric Holder, the Justice Department, concerning the Quitman 10+2 and what happened. And Tyrone Brooks, Representative Tyrone Brooks, tells me that Joseph Lowry signed off on it, and other civil rights leaders across the United States of America, and yet nothing happened. It seems as if though our civil rights organizations, we have it on record, the NAACP take $500,000 plus from Walmart Stores Incorporated and perhaps other major corporations, and therefore our civil rights organizations are losing their effectiveness and is leaving American citizens to beat the bushes for themselves. And so I don't recommend going out of your own community to try to prove that you care about civil and human rights. The question is, what are you doing in your own community? What are you doing about the deaths at the hands of law enforcement? Did you travel to Valdosta when KJ was found dead, rolled up in a mat at Lowndes County High School? Did you stand up for the 14-year-old girl that was hogtied by a member of Lowndes County Sheriff's Department, face down for allegedly striking an educator. Then educators gave written statements that the student, black female, never struck an educator. Yet they went to court, lost their case. Those parents and that girl are suffering until this day, asking, where is the justice? So did you go to Valdosta to assist this mother? You went to Selma. Yeah, you went to Selma in mass numbers. You was in the crowd with the president. You crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. But did you cross the Georgia and Florida line, the Alabama and Georgia line, and come to the aid of that 14-year-old girl? And what about the Get to Free Press George Boston Rhines? I have been under a criminal trespass from Lowndes County Sheriff's Department for 21 months without justification or notification, and I violated no law. All I did was report the news that others refused to report. Do you not know that even Sanford Bishop, worker Michael Bryant, had a gun pulled on him in front of Rose's restaurant in Quitman, Georgia? And do you not know that the news media would not even report what happened to him? I didn't hear nothing from Sanford Bishop. Nothing at all. We had better wake up, y'all. So when I went to the newspapers and asked them, what country are we living in? Are we living in Afghanistan, Iran, or Pakistan? And so they finally did a story about Michael Bryant having a gun pulled on him by a white Caucasian in Quitman, Georgia. But then again, it seems as if though we can travel to Selma and other locations, but when it comes down to traveling to where the people of this dispensation are living the real dream of Dr. King, they are not placating, they are not imitating, they are not duplicating, they are living the real dream. We look for Oprahs, we look for Tyler Perry, we look for those who are in the limelight, who we thought was our quote-unquote black leaders. We thought that we had certain blacks on TV stations that would come to the aid of the needs of the black community. And yet, we still are left without the voice of those who are in positions to tell the truth. But they are nowhere to be found. This is the Get to Free Press. I'm going to continue to do what I do because it must be done. And so I'm going to ask you to excuse me because many of you all asked me, did I go to Edmund Pettus Bridge? Let me say this to you. I may not have been to Edmund Pettus Bridge, but I have been to Mooresford Bridge. I may not have been in the crowd with the president and all these other big wheels, but when it come down to what I've mentioned to you plus, I have been there and I have tried to do my part because I know we cannot live on the struggle of those that lived yesterday. We must do something that will be a reflection of those who stood up and gave their lives yesterday so that we could breathe and our children could breathe. And so I'm going to leave you now, and I'm going to leave you in brief by saying, don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't live in the shadows of those that did what you refused to do today. Dr. King didn't just talk about George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington and other great leaders and what they did. Dr. King, like John Brown, like Noble Drew Ali, and others, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, they got up and they did something. They didn't just live in the shadows. They didn't just get on a bus, They didn't just get in a van. They didn't just get in their vehicle and took a vacation and say, I was there. I got pictures, I was there. But have you ever been called a nigger, as I was called on February the 6th in Gordon, Georgia, for standing up with the mayors that the black community in the United States of America could care less about? No CNN, no ABC, no CBS, no MSNBC, no Al Sharpton, just suffering black female mayors, just black suffering black mayors, just two suffering white female mayors. But it seemed as if though nobody cares until the big cameras roll out and the president or the vice president or some who was in the struggle of yesterday and received bruises, they received bruises, stand on the podium and speak. But what about those suffering men and women that served in the United States Armed Forces for all of our rights? And then we look around and our black leaders and the government says, good night, good night, good night, when we need them at this great hour. And so I'm going to say to the black mayors, Mayor James Charles Brown III in Quitman, Mayor Linda Harris in Meigs, Mayor Charles Gibson in Lumpkin, Georgia, Mayor Chris Wright in Dawson, Georgia, Mayor Ann Whipple-Lue in Gordon, Georgia, the Mayor of Davisboro, Georgia, the Mayor in Warrenton, Georgia, George Ivy, we say to you, I want to apologize on behalf of the civil rights organizations. I want to apologize for those who will travel to Selma, but they will not travel to your community. They will not publish one article about all of you that met with me in Macon, Georgia. I apologize for the newspapers who refuse to connect the dots to show that the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Governor seems unconcerned about all the confusion that has taken place at public meetings across the state of Georgia. And they just sit and say and do nothing. Eric Holder of the Department of Justice was furnished several videos that I sent with the approval and the letters and signature of blacks from around the nation. And I'm not going to say, but I will ask Representative Tyrone Brooks to get with the American newspapers and see and publish what Eric Holder said about voting rights in the state of Georgia and what the Quitman 10+2 went through without help. But through it all, God made them victorious over their enemies. This is the Ghetto Free Press. I'm George Boston Rhymes. Please, black community, please, black news anchors, the few that we have that have not punked out under pressure, please understand that we are not who we claim to be, but who we prove ourselves to be over a given period of time. If you're a liar, time will tell. If you're a deceiver, time will tell. If you hate the color of your skin and the blackness of your kin, time will tell. But in the end, rest assured, with or without you, truth, right, and justice will win in the end. As it is written, so shall it be done. St. John 8:32 says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set and make you free. Well, to all the mayors that I visited and those that have called me and I have not visited yet, I want to say to you, I have done about all I can do, and I still haven't done enough. But it is a disgrace. It is indeed a disgrace when we sit back and say we are concerned about voting rights. And these black elected mayors won the election. And now the state of Georgia is circumventing them from carrying out the oath that they took under our former government in the land of the free and the home of the brave. They say, peace be unto you. The Ghetto Free Press saying, have a nice day. And when will you travel to the state of Georgia in mass numbers as you travel to what the freedom fighters did yesterday at Edmund Pettus Bridge? When will you come to Georgia? The governor, the Secretary of State, Georgia General Assembly, they're not standing with these mayors. These mayors are standing alone. And it is as if though I, the Ghetto Free Press, cannot get Victor Blackwell 60 minutes or 48 hours to live up to what have been written on paper that this nation was all about. That's freedom of the press, free speech, freedom of religion, and your right to vote. Again, the Ghetto Free Press. Bye-bye. We go. This is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston. Once again, I'm back in Macon. This council meeting just ended, and I think this was a work session, am I right?
It was a council meeting, and then we went into a training workshop type of deal. I'm not really sure what it was because I wasn't notified.
Okay, when you say not notified, what you mean? I heard you saying this over a year ago. What do you mean when you say not notified?
Well, they're still keeping me from finding out things, and then it's also they've just changed the locks on my door again. I got them back, I think, when the manager came on duty in like October. He gave me my keys back. It pretty much wasn't left up to the council because he's basically already doing what he wants to do. But now he's taken my doors locked. The locks are changed on the door again. My cell phone has been taken again. My computer has been taken again. So I don't have access to the office. I'm mayor and CEO of this city, and we have 3 forms of government, as all of you competent people know that. And they say that the charter has been changed, and the charter can only be changed if it goes to the General Assembly. So we've really got to work that out, because that's where the chaos and confusion is coming in at. We have, with a strong mayor, weak council form of government, you can have a city manager administrator, but you don't have a city manager giving them power of the mayor. That's violating the state charter.
Up in Macon and Gordon, I go to approximately 11 cities, and I have noticed that your problems are similar to other newly elected black mayors. And so my question really is that if there's a violation of the charter, have you contacted the representative for this area? Senator David Lucas has taken issues with the higher officials in the state of Georgia on behalf of Mayor Whipple-Lue in Gordon. Mm-hmm. So have you called the state representative? Can you get an assistance from the state representatives to help resolve these problems down here?
Well, I've called several state representatives. I've called Sam Watson, I've called Jay Powell, I've called Senator Dean Burke, and all of them. I actually called Senator Dean Burke on last week. He's still at the General Assembly. He's still up there at the session, and it doesn't end till the end of March. But we're going to get together, other mayors and elected officials that's having the same problem that I'm having. We're going to hopefully form our own coalition so that we can stick together and get one person to represent us and take care of these situations.
Mayor Linda Harris, are you? I mean, did you notify the newspapers, the television stations here in South Georgia that this meeting was taking place? Because it seems to me that as long as these problems been going on, it seemed to me that the news media would be interested in these type of meetings so they could keep the people here in Meigs and in Thomas County informed of what's going on. I didn't see any newspapers. I didn't see no television station. In fact, I don't even know if you all had a recording secretary or a clerk to record the minutes. So who recorded the minutes? I mean, just what's going on?
Well, actually, the council wonders why I call them incompetent. They're not incompetent in every aspect, in every way. They're incompetent when it comes to our city and state charter, because these are things that they should know. You have to alert the newspaper and different people when these type things are going on. But as far as the newspaper is going on, they don't want to be a part of confusion. They say they're not there to make arguments, about what's going on with the city, but they're free to rant and rave and say whatever they want in that area. But they don't come here. They don't come here when we're having our meetings, because for one thing, it's a short notice. They don't give them a chance to come, because it's not like it has to be any certain hour notice to them. They just do what they want to do, when they want to, how and where they want to do it at.
Well, mainly I'm here because I noticed that the counselor lady, I thought she was going to consent to an interview. Maybe we'll get it later. But when you appeared in the newspaper, I got a call from a follower on my YouTube channel out of Cordele. And she said to me, George, get over to Meigs because they need your assistance to report what's going on over there. And I read the newspaper. Now, I've already done a video, but my question to you is, they talked about you being causing disturbance over here. They talked about, what's the young council lady name?
Stephanie Battles.
Stephanie Battles. So what was published in the paper, the headline I saw on the television station was it was reported on television that there was a brawl. I have heard people even today when I asked them about that, they say there was no brawl. Well, if there was no brawl, why would the would the television report to everybody on this end of Georgia that there was a brawl when there wasn't one? Why would they do that?
There was not a brawl, but I guess the brawl came with the information that the city hall had given them. Saying that there was a push, there was not a push. What initially happened is I came in to look at bank statements for December. I had been asking our city manager for the bank statements, and when I came in to get them, he gave me copies. Okay, I went into my office to look at the copies. There were several pages missing. Some pages were redacted, that's blackened out. And where there's supposed to be one of 8, I think like 4, 5, and 6 were gone. And I went back there to ask him if I could, well, he wasn't even in. I went back there in the room where the documents are, where I've been allowed to go back in the past to get them. I went back there to get them, and one of the employees alerted him that I was back there getting the bank books. And so he came in and immediately snatched them out of my hand, told me I wouldn't be looking at those today. So by that time, Councilman Stephanie was coming up there because we had already discussed going over the bank statements. So that's why she was up there. She wasn't up there because I called her up there. We had already planned. This was a plan. Her and I planned things. And when she went in to ask for the copies that were missing, the manager, superintendent is really what he is, because we have a strong real, we council form of government. He told her, Councilman, I told you wasn't, told the mayor she wasn't getting them, and you're not getting them either. So that's where the confrontation started at. Had we been given those documents or allowed to look at those documents, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Let me ask you, you just want to look at the documents, or did you want to get copies of them? What was your purpose in wanting to see the documents?
Well, I always go in there and look at the documents. Every month I look at the documents. And, December was a Christmas month, and I was actually wanting to see, because the council agreed for them not to get vacation pay, because I told them some of them been there 3 months, some of them been there 6 months, you have to be there a year.
Did you tell them, or did you put it before council and you vote on it?
We put that before the council, that they wouldn't get vacation pay.
Okay, but why did you determine? You said I did. Now, see, one lady asked the question, one of your fellow council members, And I've noticed that you use the term, a lot of my video, you say my powers. Why do you use the term my powers so much? Sometimes that turns people off as if though you are stuck on having power when you may have the power, but why don't you just work with the council? Or do you use power because you can't work with the council? Why do you use the word power so much?
I use the word power because actually that's what it is. A mayor, strong mayor, weak council form of government. And I let them know that I do have that power. I'm trying to get them to see that they're in violation of the charter. And even I brought handouts today showing them the proper way to go about amending a charter and things you can't do.
Right, but see, what I'm saying really is that I've been in Valdosta for approximately, I've gone through 5 different mayors, and I never hear the mayor talk about I got the power, or it's like they don't, that's not even an issue. And so my thing is in fact, I do see it in Gordon, but Gordon and Meigs, the only 2 real cities I see, well, a little bit in Whipple, but not much. But everybody can focus on the power. My thing is, again, why is it that you have to exert the fact that the power issue, is it that you are treated differently? I mean, why the power is why people got to state the power?
Because whenever you are the mayor and you're the CEO of a city, that gives you executive power. That's just your power, and authority means the same thing. So I say to them, some of my council, so what do you rather me say, authority? They are the ones that's worried about the power issue, because if they weren't worried about power, they would be able to get along with me better. I mean, because I'm trying to work with them, but they lie and say that I go over there and disrupt. We have a surveillance camera over there. I wish they'll pull the surveillance camera, because they'll see that I'm not disruptive at all. There's 4 doors in between me and the city hall administration.
Why don't you have a copy of that? Any citizen can go over there and request a copy of that under the Sunshine Law.
Right.
Am I right?
You're right.
So why don't you already have one? Why? I mean, what about when you all was Miss Battle, Councilman Battle was arrested? Is that on camera too?
That's on video camera. We have a nice surveillance system over there. But if we wanted to get it, when I tried to get it, whenever they were putting me in jail, I was told by the law enforcement that I was going to have to pay $250. When my attorney subpoenaed for those documents, they never got them.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Well, did your attorney, or did you, or did anybody on the council collectively or citizen request to Sam Olens under the open records and the Sunshine? They got a law, a pamphlet, $1,000 fine. Are they aware that can cost the city money by violating the open records and the Sunshine Law?
I have mentioned that to them. I have written to Sam Olens. He did respond to me on one time. I sent a letter, emailed Sam Olens' office, and I also CC'd Tommy Coleman and some of the council members, and also Sam Watson, if I'm not mistaken. But I will be sending another one to Sam Watson, Mr. Sam Watson, because we are in trouble here in the city of Meigs. We need some intervention, because the council and the manager superintendent, those are the ones that's that's executing power when they shouldn't be executing that type of power. But their power is they're getting together to keep me out of the office so that I won't see their wrongdoings. Because when you're transferring funds, I want to be aware of that, because I'm the mayor. I'm supposed to be signing the documents. That's one of the duties that they did leave vested in me, is to sign those documents. But they called the mayor pro tem in to sign the documents. But he did tell me today at the council meeting this morning, when I spoke to him about signing documents when I am available, he told me today he wouldn't be doing it anymore.
Okay. So to try to reel this in, I noticed that Councilman Battle, this is why I want to interview her. I don't know if she left, but I really want to interview her because, if I'm not mistaken, she went to jail. And I don't know if anybody have given her an opportunity to speak. Of course, I want to make sure that she is in accord with her attorney. But the point is that I noticed her even before she was elected, and it seemed to me that she's trying to become more informed.
Right.
I think she's in school. I think she want to learn.
She does.
And mentioned today that she wanted to learn about over as being chair, but they say, I mean, I don't want to regurgitate because that's already on film. But the point I'm trying to make is that, do you all have in Meg City Hall a operating instructions broken down by job title, like every professional government agency I know? If you walk into that position, there is a handbook, something that deals with the chairman of the finance committee, whatever the committees are. They sit down and read that booklet or that information to familiarize themselves with the government and this government functions. MEGS wasn't created just last year.
Right.
They got decades of information that should have been compiled. Do you think that there's a great possibility that that information may be in City Hall, but maybe it's not being given to the people when they're elected to these positions?
And that probably very well so is true, because I've asked for the ordinance, in which I will be going asking for the ordinance again, because there's somewhere in that ordinance that states what powers each chairman has. And but this is Meg's, you know, that's why I came into office, because I know that they do what they want when they want and how they want it. And that's why they want me out of the picture, because I'm trying to hold them accountable for their actions, whether it be the daily operators, the city manager, the city clerk, the chief of police, all of the officers. I want them held accountable. And I think the mayor and the council should have that authority to do that.
Let me get to one other issue, because I think you need more time than this, and maybe we can come back and do a little more talk. Now, here's what I want you to do, because I've been coming up here, and I hadn't been up here in a good while because I wasn't, I haven't gotten the calls, and you all didn't call me up here, so I took a break. But the young lady in Cordelia, she's always asking, Ryan, what's the status? And Meg's, I didn't know. Personally, I thought when that other lady left, what's her name? Just the Mocha.
Okay.
When I thought she left, I thought that everything would get better, but it seemed like it's the same thing that's going on there.
Yes, because they made that ordinance, and it is an incomplete ordinance, and it's going to move forward. Hopefully, we'll move on that next week and trying to get this thing rectified, because until they acknowledge the fact that we are a strong mayor, we council form of government, and one ordinance, you can't change it by ordinance or resolution before it goes before the General Assembly. They are in violation, and they cannot do the things that they are doing. And until they take that before the state, they're going to continue to put a manager that the council already told me, Mayor, you won't be getting back your power. We'll always have a city manager. But you got to change the form of government. You got to learn. And that's why I call them incompetent, not because they might be totally incompetent, but they're incompetent when it comes to our city charter and our city government.
Well, in a lot of these cities, they are changing to a strong city manager. They're doing that. I was talking to Representative Tyrone Brooks, and I've talked to Edward DeBoer, the state president of NAACP, and he said when the change shifted, wherein blacks became mayors, that they begin to change governments. Now, a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but I intend to continue, because I believe that whatever is good for one should be a good for all. God said, I have no respect of persons.
That's right.
And this is what I believe in. And I can't understand, once again, why the citizens here in Meigs will not write to the governor of the state of Georgia, or the Secretary of State, or the Attorney General, Sam Olens, and let them know that their government is dysfunctional, not only here in Meigs, the people in Gordon. And believe me, I do this because I'm concerned. I have a radio station in Thomasville.
Okay.
He stays in touch with me, and he tells me, he said, Ryan, I appreciate what you're doing, because we would be totally ignorant to what's going on in the state of Georgia if you wasn't reporting it.
That's right.
And he is a white Caucasian. And so I want people to understand that there are black and white people and other people who just want what's right for all people.
Yes.
So let you in the closing remarks. No, I got to ask you one other thing. I want you to do me a summation.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you do this by yourself.
Okay.
I want you to tell me, since you took office, have you ever been in jail, or what have happened to you? Please, people in Atlanta, people in Georgia legislature, people in Omaha, Nebraska, and Canada who watch these videos. I have over 700,000 views and 1,100, almost 1,300 subscribers to this channel.
Okay.
So people want to know what is going on in the state of Georgia, and they want to know why the people in Atlanta do not come to these 11 cities and do something, and why they allow this turmoil to go on and on and on, and nothing is done about it. I want you to tell me about what have you gone through, and your family members. Close us out in that, and tell us, just take your time and tell us
Well, I've been going to council meetings for over 5 years now. And the people that's been elected in these seats, the former mayor who I defeated, Mayor Andrew Worth, I helped campaign to get him on, Mayor Annie Doris Lovejoy, I campaigned to get her on. I am a very well-known person within not just Meigs and Thomas County. In fact, Thomas County wants me to come down and get on the commission board. And I might take them on for that because I don't want to have to continue to go with this dysfunctional stuff that's going on in the city of Meigs. But since I've been coming to the council meetings, well, actually, when I was sworn in January 2nd, on agenda number 3, I was sworn in. On agenda number 4, that same night, an elected official was ousted out. But I was arrested before then. Before I became mayor, when I was going for the special election, I was arrested by the former administration saying that I was stalking. And then in April of last year...
What happened to that charge?
And what happened with that charge, and the reason why I was going on with April, the same lady, they made a manager, giving her my power. She had me arrested for threatening. But I'm going to show you how the God that I serve came through for me. There are people calling me to go to root doctors, but they say I'm the voodoo person. I'm totally against voodoo and witch work. But I'm going to tell you how strong and powerful my God is. When I was going to prepare for my trial on that Wednesday, January the 21st, I do believe was the 21st, my attorney called me about 3:40. He said, Ms. Harris, it's been dismissed. How do you feel about that? I couldn't help but to cry. I just started crying because the God I serve knows that I wasn't guilty of neither one of those charges. It was just somebody that had personal vendettas against me. They were the ones wanting the power, but the God I serve make roots, and he wasn't going to allow his innocent angel, and I'm going to call myself an angel because I belong to the Lord. And he didn't even allow me to step foot in the court. They didn't have enough evidence for those charges, and they threw it out.
Okay, President, I know I came here, former police chief Jimmy Layton, we stood over there before when they locked you out of your office. They chained the locks on those doors to your office. And now they're saying, you're telling me that the same thing has happened again?
The same thing has happened again. It's just a little pattern that they're going through. And I'm a person that anybody can get along with. The people up there in the office can't get along with me because they know I'm trying to hold them accountable for their actions. We work now for our pay taxpayers dollars now to pay salaries, and they know that I want to decrease the salary workforce over there, and none of them wants to leave. So therefore, they try to block me from even speaking, really. I'm a mayor and the council has more power than I have, and that's not our form of government either. So I'm just going to sit back.
So do you think that there is dissension among the council to the degree that it put impediments in the way of this city moving forward?
It does, very badly.
Well, you want to talk about, briefly, I don't want you to be divisive in your comments, but do you think that, where do you see light at the end of the tunnel? Make it simple. Where do you see a possible light or could be some light at the end of the tunnel?
Possible light, and I'm not trying to have the authority. I only try to work by my charter. I'm trying to do what my charter says I have the power to do. The council, the city managers, the administration over there in the city hall don't want me to have power because they know that I'm going to hold them accountable for their actions, and they know if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, I'm going to get rid of them. And being that, this has been an ongoing thing, we have had different administrations to come, but some of the same people are over there. Until you get rid of those same people that's causing the problem, Meigs is going to continue to be dysfunctional. If you got council members that's conflict of interest, have the conflict of interest with the workers over there, and council members that's husbands, that's supervisors, superintendents.
Okay, I don't want you to get in that too much. What I want to say, because we already have that, former chief of police, Jimmy Layton, has made that very clear.
Okay.
And I was watching that the other day.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to go back to that. I already can show video on that. I can clip it to this one. But mainly, what I want you to say to me, and to the people that watch this, if you cannot get help from the leaders in Atlanta, the Governor Nathan Deal, the Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp, the Attorney General Sam Olens, and the GMA, and the local senators or representatives for this area, what are you, the council, the employees, and the citizens in Meigs, what are they to do?
The citizens have just basically come and gave up again. When I got elected, as you could see, the community center was full. They supported me. They come to me and they ask me, Mayor, why is this and why is that? I really feel sorry for them and sorry for myself, because they say I don't have the power to come and tell them what the citizens said. If they have a concern, the city manager has stated that they need to come to him. But as far as working with the state, like I said, I've worked with the state, and they just tell us we've got an intergovernmental mess that our city attorney is going to have to help us with, or I've got to get my own attorney. But our city attorney is the one who made this ordinance, and it's incomplete really, because there's certain things on the ordinance divesting me of my powers and giving them to the manager that he don't want the manager nor me to execute. And that's a violation of the charter right there.
Okay, I got two questions, and I want to close this, but I think this is good. I think people need to know this. I know people need to know this. I have two more questions. Number one, all that you are going through here in the state of Georgia, I don't want you to tell your business to all of the people in the state of Georgia and around the world, but how much do you get paid every month for all this that you're going through in the state of Georgia, where Governor Nathan Deal is, Secretary of State Brian P. Kemp, Attorney General Sam Olens, and GMA, as well as the citizens and workers here? Some of them get paid. How much money do you get every month for the job that you're doing?
The council nor the mayor gets paid $0. I did mention to them that there is a provision in our charter, and they used to get paid, but Meigs became very broke at one time, and we didn't have enough money to pay the council members, so they worked on a volunteer basis. That's where the council has gotten so laxed. It's certain things they will and won't do because they're not getting paid to do it. When I came into this position, I had a pretty good job, so I could work on a volunteer basis. So I knew that I wouldn't get paid, but I did bring it to their attention that we could make a vote, to get paid, but it has to be after a certain election before it goes on the ballot, and the people have to speak. But they said that we don't have enough money in the city of Meigs for us to get paid, so, but they have to speak for themselves, because anytime you're dealing with this much chaos, you want to get $100 or $200 for gas coming back and forth to these meetings and stuff that we have to go to. And I don't see why they don't want to get paid. Everybody else does.
But you do get travel pay when you go to training, am I correct?
They will give you travel pay according to who you are, because I've gone to Southwest Georgia regional meetings, and I haven't gotten paid, but I'm quite sure maybe if I go up there again and get the paperwork, they will reimburse me. But
okay, once again, I've been here before, but I want you to tell me once again, what type of meeting was this morning? It was a council meeting and a work session, am I correct?
Yes, and all of that was a surprise. I actually came through the drive-through to see about the election, see when how long it was going to be before the people had to be registered to vote. And I saw that there was an agenda for a special council meeting. So that's another thing that the city manager does. Had I known there was going to be a council meeting and there was going to be an agenda, I asked him to put some things on the agenda. As you see, I wanted to discuss some things, but he said, Mayor, that's not being discussed today. That's about the finances. If you don't want to discuss finances, or you have a problem with me looking at it, okay, maybe you're guilty of something you don't want me to see. Maybe.
Well, let me
it appears.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you another question. I noticed that, and I've seen this before, and I'm not speaking about what I can't prove, because I can show you the video. Anybody in the United States of America, God or the devil, I can show that it seemed as if though, I have it on tape already, where you didn't adjourn the meeting. At other meetings, people just left.
Yes.
And I noticed today that someone else really called to adjourn the meeting other than you. And then I heard somebody gave a motion, and I just looked because the meeting kept going on. So I thought that the meeting was over, but I did notice that you took control, and you ended up, closing the meeting out as it should have been. But why is it that people don't understand or respect the power of the gavel, number one, and number two, I got it on video. Everybody watching this video can listen. 2 and 3 conversations are going on at one time. Now, somewhere, the question must be asked for the people in Canada, was they following the Robert's Rules of Order, or what type of order was you following when you allow over there where the young lady that was Miss Councilman Battle, they had a conversation going on.
Okay.
And then you had another one going on. And so I don't know if people can understand what was even being said. Personally, I blame you for that because I was looking for you to say a point of order and hit your gavel. But what happened with that? Why is that?
Well, you see, it's certain things that I can do. I don't know if, I did take control at times. But, you know, with them so totally against me, I'm just afraid, not say afraid, but I'm tired of them disrespecting me and just treating me the way they want to treat me. That should be a fine in itself. You know, it's just everybody else can say what they want to say, whether it's on the agenda or not. But when it comes time for, as you notice, when it comes time for me to say something and it's not on the agenda, they immediately tell me, oh, that's not on the agenda.
I noticed that, and this is not only this meeting, other meetings as well. People always tell you that you are out of order, but I don't hear you lead the way and tell other people that they are out of order. Why is that?
Because they want to portray me as hostile anyway. And I did hit the gavel pretty hard one time today, right, because he was interrupting me. I had the floor then, but he just feels that he has that authority.
Well, I want you, as we close, and once again, I'm going to let you say the final word, and I promise I'm going to be through, but before then, I want to say this right here, is that I don't want you, I don't want this council, I don't want the city manager, I don't want the chief of police, I don't want the sheriff of Thomas County, who I got great respect for. I really do.
Yeah, so
I don't want anybody thinking, I don't want the governor of the state of Georgia, the secretary of state, the attorney general, or GMA leaders, I don't want any of them believing that Meigs is any different from Gordon, Georgia, Lumpkin, Georgia, Dawson, Georgia, Davisboro, Georgia, Warrenton, Georgia, and at least 11 other cities. So people look at Meigs, including the newspapers and possibly the television stations, and they'll think that it's just you. Right. But it's not just you. So I want you all the people that I call, I want them to understand we don't need an outsider to come in and tell us that it's just you. So I don't want you being depressed, getting high blood pressure, and thinking it's just you, because it's in other cities as well. But what really gets me and causes my blood pressure, because I never had high blood pressure, but what gets me is the fact that we don't have anybody in the state of Georgia that would see from watching these videos that we have some problems, and I question them. My question is, people are so angry in Gordon, Georgia. I've seen people angry here. And I see a great fall off in the people that attend these meetings. I saw packed houses. We got it all on video. But today there's very few people. They didn't gave, like you say, they didn't gave up.
They gave up because, for one thing, they said that the citizens weren't going to have their voice. That's one of the things I said in January when I took office. They will have their voice back. Now they've listened to me again. So now what you have to do when you come in, I've been telling the residents that you fill out a form when you come in. Hand it to me and I'll call your name when it comes to public comments. But yes, they feel that their voice can't be heard. They said they elected a mayor to go up there and do the job, that the city administration, the administrators over there, and the managers that they put in place, they are able to do the mayor any kind of way. They don't like that. And they said, and they don't know if they're going to come up here and voice their opinions and whether they're going to be arrested or not. And you said, what's going on with my family? 2 of my brothers have been arrested. And then on another occasion, my brother came to the council meeting that he was on the agenda to speak, and one of the council members advised the city chief to go and arrest him that next morning. He was arrested again. So therefore, he can't come up here. But that's only because we have that one council member that's really causing a big problem here.
Well, how many brothers do you have?
I have 4 brothers.
You have 4 brothers. Now, I believe, well, the 2 that I know, which is, I've talked to, that's, I think one of them is Calvin, and the other one is what?
Edward.
Can they come to these meetings and watch their sister conduct meetings?
My brother Edward can come if he wants to, but he says that it's just, you know, it's just so much some people are gonna allow their relatives to have to go through. And he was like, it's been in his best interest not to come up here. Because it's not ran correctly anyway. Too many people, too many chiefs and not enough Indians, so he just rather not be a part of this chaos. My brother Calvin can't come up here because of one of the council members having the chief to arrest him, and they told him he can't come back to the city hall. He can't come back to any of the Meg's property.
You can't go on any...
To the city hall nor the community center.
And what did he do?
He just, they suspended those charges on him, but they told him to not get in any trouble. My brother has had to move out of town to keep from getting in trouble.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Because he knows that if one of the council members or some of them say he did accuse him of doing something wrong, then the police is going to be advised to go and get a warrant out on him. So he'd just rather stay from around here.
Wow.
And hopefully we're going to have our seat filled with one of the supporters for Meg's that has Meg's best interest at heart. And some of these things are going to have to change.
Okay, once again, I want to thank you for this interview. I wished I could have interviewed the young lady, Miss Battle, who actually went to jail. And according to some people in the community, as I walked around, they said that for the most part, they don't think she did anything wrong. And I don't think nobody could spell it out better probably than Jimmy Layton. I think when he said that you was banned from your office before, and he said these words, and I quote him, Linda didn't do nothing wrong. Linda didn't do nothing wrong. And he's white, he's a Caucasian. Okay.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I want to thank you very much. I don't come much as I used to, but maybe I need to start coming back. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
I want you to say this to the young lady in Cordelia. Will you tell the young lady in Cordelia that told me to get up here and come back to Meg's? People was asking about you, girl. Will you say to the lady in Meg's who watched all my videos, and she was concerned about Meg's, and she said to me, George, and she saw the newspaper. I didn't see it, so she sent it to me through my email, and she made comments on YouTube about what's going on Meg's. She said, George, please go back over to Meg's. And when I came back, I found that it's still in a state of chaos, and it seemed like that nobody in Atlanta will address the issues. So say something to that young lady.
Well, hi, my supporter in Cordele. I just want to thank y'all because I know that a lot of people had to be praying. And I want you to know that I really appreciate the concern that's going on here. And if we just continue to pray, the Lord is going to, I read in Isaiah, one of the citizens of Gordon called me last night, and he just shared some spiritual information to me. And he said, Mayor, read 41:9-30.
I'm going to read that too.
And I tell you, that was right on time. And the Lord is going to move these evildoers out the way. And we are going to be looking for the enemy, which it says in the Bible, the enemy. The Lord's going to be he's going to take care of them for himself.
Thank you very much. Once again, this is the Ghetto Free Press. I'm George Dawson. I'm in the little city of Meg's, Georgia. I've been here before. I was called when they accused her of doing some type of witchcraft or something like that. And from here, right here from Meg's, I was informed about what happened in Dawson, Georgia. I got to Dawson, then I was informed about Gordon. I got in Gordon, then I was informed about Davisboro. When I got in Davisboro, anyway, I'm going to leave that alone. Then I went to, we put it like this, this is about 11 cities that's in perils, and we're just hoping that eventually, I want the masses of the people that watch this on YouTube, I want you to call the governor, I want you to call our elected officials in the state of Georgia and say, you know what, Governor, I think it's time for something to be done before somebody gets hurt in them little small towns. Once again, the Ghetto Free Press, The Voice. We do what we do because it must be done. Bye-bye, we're gone. this is what happened. I'm gonna send this direct. What are you? I'm gonna send this direct to Eric Holmes. This is what I'm talking about here in Georgia. This is why I called the governor of the state of Georgia to come in on this because this is what's going on here. And I want it to be known. Y'all got that. I got it on tape. If we as far as friends. Look at me. Watch me. I ain't heard that word.
Maybe you was, are you something wrong with you?
I'm recording. I got it recorded. I ain't going to record on.
Who did it? What are you?
This is what happened. I'm gonna send this direct.
What are you?
I'm gonna send this direct to Eric Holmes. This is what I'm talking about here in Georgia. This is why I called the governor of the state of Georgia to come in on this because this is what's going on here. And I want it to be known. Y'all got that. I got it on tape. If we as far as friends.
Me, I need my minute books.
Okay, let me say this. I have the minute books, and if you need them, you need to go in
Do
there.
you realize you're supposed to look at those in my presence too? I'm the official record custodian. I am responsible
Clerk
for those.
Brown, good afternoon, and would you please
I don't
leave?
think so.
Please exit my office, please.
It is,
You're violating.
they,
I am the official record. You're not even supposed to take
it
those out of my office.
wasn't as advised.
Those are the official
by
signed
the city
signature
attorney.
on there.
Now, leave it,
You're
leave
very
it running, leave
rude.
it running, leave it running.
And Mr. Rhines has no right to those records without open record
Please
request.
exit my office.
And don't forget,
Please
you haven't done your.
exit my office.
But it
You
is,
have not signed
we
your
was
text
advised,
either.
they was advised, she was advised by the attorney.
The city
Please
attorney told me
exit
to
my
tell you
office.
that. You're violating the
Please
rules.
exit my office, y'all are being insubordinate.
No, ma'am, you're being rude and disrespectful to your employees.
Exit my office, please. Thank
Okay, the
you,
attorneys will be contacted.
thank you.
Let it be known that the Tawana covered the lens of this camera. I never cover the lens of the chief camera. His camera was on. Number two, I never spoke ill of Tawana, ever, today nor yesterday. And the mayor, I don't know what you have to live under, girl. It's rough for you.
Yes.
Thank God I was here today.
Thank you, and so the mere fact of the matter is this is what I have to endure. And let it be known for the record that we will have to get someone in, a higher administrator to deal with this. The clerk is totally, the chief is totally out of order. And be it known today that I would like to have a copy of the record of this video or DVD to send to Judge Robert Reeves.